Language of My Soul is an independent documentary film about Katrina Esau, better known as Oma Katrina, who revived her long-lost language of New in her 60s, despite her own inability to read and write. Oma Katrina's determination to preserve the ancient and highly endangered New language led her to establish a new language school to ensure its survival for future generations. So in 2014, she received the prestigious Order of the Baobab for her outstanding service to South Africa. And for more, we're joined now by the producer of Language of My Soul, Bonolo, Molale. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Ms. Molale. Let's just first start with how you came about to make the documentary.
Well, it was a remarkable journey. We met her in 2019 at a language workshop organized by the Buku Foundation. And we were just struck by her warmth and her regalness. But then we realized that she's the last speaker of an endangered language, and we couldn't sit by and not do anything. So as a production house, the Myrmidons, we decided that we had to pick up our arms and create a documentary around her. And we were really honored that she allowed us to do it.
All right. I'm assuming this is that we do have an excerpt of the film. Let's just see if we can take a look before we continue our conversation.
Ek weet die dag wanneer ek nie meer daar is nie. Wat gaan van die moedertaal word nie?
Leer die taal vir die mense. Deur liefde.
Maar die ander mense se intensie is, dis 'n goudmyn. Mense wil geld maak in die skool uit.
Die noodlot is teen haar om regtig die taal voort te kan laat leef.
Niemand gaan dinge doen sonder my, vir my man.
So, as we showed a bit of the documentary's makings and the subject matter, what was your approach to it? And as you said, you realized when you first met her that she is the lone survivor of a language that was soon to become extinct. So tell us what you thought about the documentary making process, how to approach it, to make it as memorable as the meeting, and of course, your objective.
It was special to us because it was a story of a woman that was very late in her years, that very much treasured the preservation of her language. Language is so important because it carries our culture. And in the process of making this film, we realized that it couldn't be told by an objective view, either the director's view or what is often seen as a Western view. So our journey was really her telling her story. It was amazing. We unearthed a lot of information about the past and information about segregation and the really bad things that happened to our people. Oma Katrina is a wealth of knowledge, but also a very amazing woman in that she's triumphed so much. So our experience has been overwhelming, to say the least. And at 90 years old today, Oma Katrina is still taking doctorates and doing so much for the preservation of her language.
How much was she able to share with you, particularly in terms of indigenous knowledge systems, how she, as we mentioned in the introduction, when she started reviving knowledge and teaching of this language, you know, how it was passed down in years before, and how we can learn from that and ensure that it lives on, not just only as, you know, a piece of academia, but as a way of life.
It's difficult because her journey wasn't easy. So she stopped speaking her language when she was in the teenage years. And it was because her language was not seen as acceptable. And she had to stop speaking it, basically. Once the government agreed that they had to find out who the original indigenous people were of Africa and South Africa, she then decided to speak her language. It's really, really important for us to really acknowledge her story and her journey, because this could happen to any of our indigenous languages. So it was an extraordinary journey for all of us, and Oma Katrina is a light for all of us in our journeys to realizing our cultural history.
And in the making of the documentary, to put some of this across, how long did it take, and who did you need to work together with as a source? And perhaps if you can also just share some of the hurdles, the challenges, and making sure that all of these elements are communicated through your piece of work, body of work, rather.
We were very lucky to have been supported by some really great funders, the NFVF, SABC, GFC, and Africa No Filter. And all of our funders really supported us in creating our documentary and giving us a voice. The challenges that we faced were immense, but in retrospect, not that big, because we just put a camera in front of Oma Katrina and let her speak. We were really fortunate. We were really fortunate in that we were able to speak to a woman that has lived for very many years. And I think that even the recognition that we've received internationally has been overwhelming. Right now, we're on a journey on our international festival tour. And it's really like everyone wants to know more about her life and her story. And we couldn't be more prouder.
And actually, I want to talk about that. What else comes out of the documentary about her life, her story, and you know, generations after her?
I don't want to give
too much away, but just as a teaser.
I don't. But it's not been easy, and I think that the themes that really stick out from the documentary are about colonization, loss of identity, loss of language, and through it all, she's been able to triumph. Those are the things that stick out, but I think that for Oma Katrina, if she were to say, she's handing over a baton to her children and her grandchildren. And once you watch the film, it'll make sense. The future is bright.
And just finally, what are you hoping people get out of this documentary, and also where and when can they watch it?
I think I would say the big red flag for us would be we need to make sure that any other language in Africa and South Africa doesn't become endangered. It is so easy. The loss of her language, she's the last speaker, she's 90 years old, and she's the last speaker of this language. It could happen to Xhosa, Zulu, Tswana, any language. And I hope that people really take it seriously, that they need to preserve their language and their culture. And moving forward, what we hope to do is highlight the very crucial topics in the documentary. Like I mentioned, the loss of language, the loss of culture, loss of identity. But we also want to talk about or highlight the really important fact of individuality that she highlights in the documentary.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, and wish you all the best, Bonolo. Molale, who is the documentary on that amazing story of Mayor Katrina.